Good morning, garden friends. It's about 10 o'clock on Friday, June 23rd. I realized it's been about 3 weeks since I last made a video. And as you can see, the garden has changed significantly. So I thought it was time to do another update, more for my records, but maybe you'll learn something along the way. So starting at this end, I am tarping to make another row next year. So the tarp is down, killing all the grass and weeds, we hope. And in the fall, I'll make another bed. In this first row here, as you can see, the only flowers we have really going at this time are the agrostemma or corn cockle. These are a new addition to the farm this year, and pretty pleased with them. I have found more use for the purple ones than the white ones, which is why the purple ones are all harvested. Snapdragons are getting ready. They're not doing much. This cool weather has really thrown the schedule off. I've got some Clarkia, some Lambada, some baby Scabiosa I just transplanted. This whole row is sunflowers at various stages. I have begun to cut them. They seem to come in the third week in June no matter what. Another row of cool flowers here. We've got carnations that are just sitting here doing nothing and a whole lot of weeds. The status is coming slowly, but I thought this was weird. I'm getting purple and white on the same stems. I tried stock again this year. It did better this year than it did last year, but I think I've determined it's just not for me. This is Auroch or Atriplex. The jury is still out. It was the only one that came up from seed, so we're going to let it bloom and see what happens, see how it goes in bouquets. And then behind it, you can see the baby's breath has just gone crazy. Most of it is actually gone by, but I've really enjoyed that in bouquets this year. This row is perennials and also a bunch of volunteer milkweed. I let milkweed stay if it pops up. The common milkweed I've found is actually not real attractive to monarchs. I have yet to see any monarch caterpillars on the common milkweed, but I leave it because my grandmother would have wanted me to. So this whole row is Echinacea and Rudbeckia. I planted one verbena just to see how it does. This row is rescued daylilies. I am working on giving them new homes so that I can reclaim this row for cut flowers. And then we've got the irises down there, same thing. I am working on getting rid of those because I need the space for cut flowers. This row is actually the very first row that I ever planted. So this used to be the end of the garden right here, and through the years we've added all of those rows. As you can see, the Artemisia or wormwood is flourishing. This came from one or two clumps that I got in a garden swap. It is great for bouquets, and I'm letting it take over. It's growing amongst daffodils, which at this point are done. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a good garden pairing. I will keep this pretty cut and harvested, and that will keep it in check. Towards the end of the row, I've got some mums and some daisies and various other perennials. This right here is the first dahlia row. Most of them are tall enough, they've been pinched, and I'm just kind of waiting for them to do their thing. I plan on doing an experiment and putting in some gladiola bulbs right in the middle of the row just to see what happens. I also need to get in here and and support these somehow. I haven't decided how I'm going to do that yet. This is the first row of tomatoes. I got them mulched today. We are expecting a week of pretty rainy weather, and I didn't want splashback from the soil. So I weeded around them and got them mulched today and tried to trim up the stems to do all that I can to eliminate soil-borne diseases. This clump of yarrow is coming out, and then I've got glads at various stages in this row. This looks like a patch of weeds, but I promise you there's Bupleurum seedlings in there. This patch of yarrow is all coming out. Then I've got Bupleurum, more yarrow, and more Bupleurum. So what I've learned this year is that the Bupleurum that overwintered, let's take a walk here. This is Bupleurum. It is great for bouquets. The Bupleurum that overwintered blooms at the same time as the Bupleurum that I start from seed in the spring and transplant out. However, you can see these are significantly shorter, right? These are thigh high for me, and then these are basically chest high for me. So, fortunately, size doesn't matter in this case. The thigh high ones work just as well for my purposes. And so I think I'm not going to worry about trying to save any that are overwintered. I'm going to weed here. I'm going to pull that out. All right. This clump of yarrow is staying. It's a beautiful peach, and there's some dark pink. The whites, which when yarrow spreads, it tends to be the white that it takes over the other colors. And so that's why these clumps are coming out. Now, I started to dig them out myself the other day, and I just couldn't do it. I got a little bit that was growing in the aisle here and thought I was going to pass out. So that's going to be a job for hubby. We will save the clumps of yellow, but all of the white is just getting yanked. This row tends to be a mishmash. I've got some branching sunflowers that I'm experimenting with. I've got some nigella. The nigella that is blossoming overwintered. And then the nigella that's down here are seedlings that came up on their own this spring. So they kind of naturally succession planted themselves. Orlea everywhere. That was my batch last year. And I let it go to seed, and now it's everywhere. So eventually I will, after I'm done using them, I will yank many of them out. I think I will leave that row to reseed. Again, I've got some reseeded cilantro here with some Bupleurum that planted itself. And then these little guys are my cosmos. I just pinched them the other day. And that same day in my Facebook memories, I saw that I had actually harvested the first of the cosmos last year at this time. So you can see just how weird our weather has been. It's been very, very chilly and just weird. We're having a long spring, which is good for the cool flowers. They love it. But the cosmos and the zinnias, not so much. Okay, so another patch, half row of dahlias mixed in between the feverfew that overwintered. These are not big enough yet for me to pinch, so that's coming on down the pike. We've got more cool seasons here. We've got some nigella that I planted from seed that did not reseed itself. We've got more agrostemma. Eventually, this will be all replaced with sunflowers and or zinnias. This row here, I just planted in seed yesterday. More basil, more bachelor's buttons, more. I did plant more Orlea to see if it would come up since the weather has been so chilly. So we're going to see. And the reason I cover it with burlap is that it protects it from the birds eating the seeds, which is a problem here. It protects it from critters, digging around. And it also helps keep the soil damp so that it doesn't dry out and the seeds can germinate. I planted yesterday specifically because I knew it was going to be a fairly wet week, and I was hoping I wouldn't have to be the one to hand water these every day. Another row of tomatoes. You can see they are also mulched, and I've tried to pinch them up. You can see the stem here where I've pinched off. Again, just to try to prevent soil-borne diseases splashing up. This right here is the row of dahlias that I actually overwintered. So there's about 11 of them that came back, which I consider a success. There were more in the ground going into winter, but we had a vole problem because, it was a nice warm spot insulated with leaves and a tarp. And so they did get to several of the tubers, but we've had 11 or 12 of them come back. I think I know what varieties they are, but we'll see. Eventually I will plant more in here, whether it's more dahlias or what, I don't know yet. But I was just excited that this experiment was a success. Sweet Williams here, more sunflowers, scabiosa, and here we have more sunflowers, and then down here is where the zinnias are, and you can see they are just not happy. I have pinched a lot of them trying to encourage branching, but the temperatures really are not what they want, and so they're just sitting here sulking. I'm hoping when it warms up, they will kind of get the message that it's time to grow. The celosia that I mixed in here, same thing, not very happy at all. This row is more dahlias. They were all planted at the same time, so why those are doing better than these, I got nothing. So these two rows are looking pretty pathetic because they're daffodils, and that's what daffodils do. So my goal this year is to, first of all, take out some varieties of daffs that are not bouquet worthy. Either they're not tall enough or for whatever reason they're coming out. And then I need to figure out what to do with these two rows during the growing season, because last year they sat dormant and I do not want to do that again. I need the space. The problem with daffodils is they are allelopathic, which means they give off chemicals which inhibit seed sprouting. And just as a example, I spread Bupleurum seeds here last fall, hoping that they would take. And out of this whole row, only these two took. Same thing with cilantro and dill. Only one cilantro plant that I can see actually took from seed. So what I have learned is whatever I plant here needs to be transplants. I have already put in, I don't know if you can see, the sun's kind of icky. I've put in some German chamomile here as an experiment. So what I will do is I will come back after the wet weather is over and I will clear out the dead stalks. I may leave them on the beds to, as mulch, but I will make it easier for myself to plant whatever it is I decide to plant in here. Maybe it'll be zinnia seedlings, maybe it'll be sunflower seedlings, maybe it'll be something that, for instance, the German chamomile. I really don't want that to reseed everywhere because it kind of does. And so my thought was, if I put it in with the daffodils and it reseeds, the seeds aren't going to sprout because of the daffodils' allelopathic nature. So I may find something maybe like Sweet Annie, right? Sweet Annie is a great plant for bouquets, but it can really take over. So I may interplant it with the daffodils and see if that kind of keeps them in check. Now the last 2 rows of perennials, you can see the Baptisia is on its way out. It's putting on its seed heads right now. The Ansonia has been out for ages. This is what it does look like when it blooms, but usually it's a lot more of those flowers. The Speedwell is not tall enough for cut flowers, so those are going to get moved so that I can use this garden space for something else. More milkweed that gets to stay. We have some eryngium and some holly, sea holly, and then all of the rest of this is liatris. The tall ones are purple. The smaller ones are white that I just planted a couple weeks ago. So we will have a good mixture. The purples will come in first this year, and I will be able to use them in bouquets, and then the white ones will be behind them, and I will get to use those in bouquets. Next year, they will all come in at the same time, so I will be overrun with liatris, but that's okay. Here I've got some Agastache that was an experiment, so we'll see how that goes, and then I have some Verbascum that is also an experiment. Along with a ton of weeds. I've also got some lilies here. These are new to the farm this year, so we'll see how those do in bouquets. And I will show you, if you can see, we've got mulberries coming, which makes me happy. That hedge over there is all raspberries, and they are turning red. And then way over there, if you can see in the cages, that's blueberries, and they are also coming along. So the fruits are doing well this year. Last year was a horrible year for them because of the drought. So I'm excited because I really have not been able to harvest these raspberries yet and taste them. I've got some of the yellow ones that I've heard good things about, so I can't wait for that. So that's it in a nutshell. Hoping that we get some good rain. We were being listed as abnormally dry. The new drought map should be out today. We did get some rain earlier in the week, so maybe that has resolved itself, but I'm hoping that we get some good soaking showers this upcoming week, but yet not too much rain because we don't need to be flooded either. All right, as always, if you have any garden questions, put them in the comments, and I'd be happy to help if I can. Hope you're getting your hands dirty, friends. Bye.